There's this quiet moment, and I think almost every single person has felt this at some point. You were sitting in a room with people, right? Maybe a team meeting.
Yeah, a space where you really want to do well.
Exactly. And there was a lull in the talk. You lean in, you share a thought you've been working on, you really put work into it, and you just get absolute silence.
The dreaded blank stares.
Yes. The talk just kind of washes over you and moves on. And then, like 4 minutes later, someone else pipes up. They say the exact same thing you just said. Maybe they swap out one or two words.
And suddenly the room goes wild.
Right. People are nodding. Someone is literally writing it down.
Yeah.
And you were just sitting there thinking, did I not just say that? It is so incredibly hard to deal with.
It is a deeply shared human pain. So many of us have been in that exact chair feeling that exact sting.
I always wonder why it happens. Because what usually happens in that moment is, we turn it inward. We start blaming our own minds. Like we think we just aren't smart enough.
We do.
Yeah.
We make it a flaw in our own worth.
Right. If you are in your 20s, it is so easy to fall into that whole comparison trap. You look at the loud, confident voices and think, well, I just lack whatever natural trait they have.
Yes, that feeling of just missing the mark.
And then, if you are in your 30s, you are likely juggling this intense work stress with a mortgage, maybe kids. And that sting of being ignored feels like solid proof that you are somehow falling behind.
It feels like harsh feedback from the world.
It really does. And by the time people hit their 40s, a lot of them just accept it. They feel like this whole thing is a fixed trait, like, well, I guess this is just who I am in a room now. I am the quiet one.
It breaks the heart a bit, doesn't it? Because people treat it as a flaw in their own mindset or a lack of real skill. But it is neither of those things. It is simply how the mind reads cues under stress.
Wait, so it's not that my ideas are bad?
Not at all. Your mind isn't broken, and your thoughts are perfectly valid. Many people are simply reacting to a tense room without the right tools. When we look closely at how humans signal trust to each other, it changes everything.
I love that, because it gives the power back to you.
Exactly. We need to look at how people broadcast their standing, the timing of when we speak, and how we frame our ideas. Because once you grasp the hidden layers of how the mind works here, you can shift how any room responds to you.
So if we want to stop being ignored, we first have to grasp the invisible forces that are at play the literal second we open our mouths.
Actually, the judgment starts even faster than that.
Really? How fast are we talking?
The mind is incredibly fast when it comes to first impressions. Our brains decide whether or not to trust a voice in just a few seconds.
Just a few seconds.
Less than 7 for most of us. And that happens deep in the brain long before the listener has actually grasped the real meaning of the words you are saying.
Oh, wow. I mean, we spend hours, sometimes days, stressing over the actual words of a pitch, getting the text just right.
And yet the room has already made a quiet ruling on you before you even hit the comma in your first sentence.
That is so unfair. Why does the brain do that? Well, it goes back to our very early days as humans. In any group of people, even complete strangers who have just walked into a room together, we naturally and quickly assign a sort of hidden order.
Like a pecking order.
Exactly. We are constantly sizing up posture, vocal tone, the pace of speech, and who spoke first. It happens entirely outside of our awake thoughts.
So the people ignoring you in that meeting aren't necessarily sitting there like being evil villains plotting against your job.
Not at all. They aren't trying to be mean. Their minds are running a very old social shortcut. Long before modern jobs existed, early humans had to figure out who to trust and follow in a split second just to stay safe.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a survival thing.
It is. But today, once that hidden rank is set in a meeting, your words are literally heard in a different way, depending on your assigned rank.
But how does that actually work in the real world? Like, if I say the exact same words as someone else, shouldn't the logic of the sentence hold the same weight?
You would think so, but it comes down to a mental habit of seeking ease. If the group senses that you are less sure, maybe your voice was a little shaky or you spoke too quickly, their brain has to work harder to trust what you're saying.
So they become skeptics.
Yes, the mind kicks into a doubtful mode. But if you are read as being in charge, your words get the benefit of the doubt. The listener's brain processes your voice with ease. It spends less effort checking your claims, meaning you win them over, even if the words are the exact same.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Does the room also just assume whoever talks the most is the smartest? Because I've definitely been in meetings where someone just takes over the floor without actually making a clear point.
That is such a common thing to see. There is this habit where people who talk the most are often seen as the most skilled. The group just gives them the most sway.
Even if they aren't saying anything useful.
Yes, because listeners wrongly take the sheer volume of words spoken with force for actual wisdom. It is a common bias in how we form group habits.
And what if you have a great idea, but you just aren't completely sure how it will land, so you phrase it carefully, like you soften it a bit?
When you do that, listeners use your tone as a shortcut for truth. If you hedge your statement or your voice wavers, the listener's brain reads that as a lack of hard facts.
Oh, I do that all the time. I'll say, well, I could be wrong, but
And the moment you say that, the brain of the person listening discounts a strong idea. It is the same when looking at how men and women tend to speak. Firm phrasing is rated as far more strong than softened, question-like tones. If you soften your point so it sounds a bit like a question, it loses its power.
wait, so even on a highly technical call with very smart people looking at hard facts,
Yeah.
our brains are basically acting like a pack of wolves just sniffing out the leader based on pure vibes.
It is a bit shocking when you put it that way, but essentially, yes, it is a hidden filter that shapes the reality of the room. It is not your ideas that are failing, it is the packaging.
Which is such a relief, honestly, to know I'm not just, lacking the right brain power. But if our minds are making these snap choices based totally on how we deliver our words, we need to talk about what is secretly hurting that delivery.
We do, because it starts long before we even log on to the meeting. We like to think of desk work as pure mind, but your body is quietly dictating how much weight your words hold.
Wait, my body, like physical stuff.
Yes, it is deeply physical. Let's start with sleep. We know being tired makes us slow, but even slight sleep loss changes the muscles in your vocal cords.
It changes your voice.
It does. It lowers your vocal strength, brings in tiny tremors, and slows down your verbal response time.
And the room doesn't read that as, oh, they were up late working hard.
No, the room's deep mind reads those tiny tremors as fear and a lack of self-trust.
Wow, that is so unfair. What else? What about food?
Diet plays a huge role. If you eat a heavy, carb-dense meal right before a meeting, you trigger a massive spike in your blood sugar. As your body works to process that food, blood flow is sent down to your stomach.
Leaving the brain hanging.
Exactly. About 90 minutes later, you hit a dip in focus because the front part of your brain, the part meant for sharp speaking, is basically starving for energy.
Which is like almost always the exact time when a long meeting is peaking and the actual tough choices are being made.
Precisely. And then there is caffeine.
Oh, no. Don't take away my coffee. We treat coffee as the ultimate tool for corporate life.
It is a daily staple for many of us. But if you time a heavy dose of coffee too close to a high-stress talk, it causes a spike in stress hormones. That pushes your nervous system into a mild state of panic.
So you're saying if I drink too much coffee, people might think I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes, because that stress spike messes with your short-term memory and pushes your speech into a shaky, rushed pattern. The room doesn't read that as passion, they read it as nervous panic.
It is wild to think about how often we question our own worth, how often we fall into that imposter feeling, when really the culprit was just the bagel and huge coffee we had for breakfast.
It is a very grounding thought. None of these body responses are deep flaws or signs that you aren't good at your work. They are just physical inputs your brain uses to present itself to the world.
Okay, so if we can fix that physical baseline, drink less coffee right before, get some sleep, how do we actually step into the talk? How do we insert ourselves into a fast-moving room without just loudly talking over people? Because I hate doing that.
It comes down to the pacing of timing and framing. Timing isn't just about watching the clock, it's about reading the flow of a chat.
Right, finding the rhythm.
A lot of people try to fight their way in by speaking over a fast talker. That just creates a mess, your words get lost, and you look unsure. Instead, you want to speak into the blank spaces. Give your words room to breathe.
What if there are no blank spaces? Some meetings are just a wall of sound.
If the room is loud, you speak right after a person who already has a firm standing in the room. You basically draft off their wave.
Well, that's smart. Is it better to wait and sum up everyone's thoughts at the end, or should you jump in right away? Sometimes speaking too early feels a bit pushy.
You really want to jump in early. There is a bias in human thinking where ideas shared in the first 2 to 3 minutes anchor the whole talk.
They set the stage.
Exactly. They are kept in mind and brought up much more often by the end. More than that, early speakers are quietly marked by the group as having the right to speak again later. You build your standing and your space to hold the floor right from the start.
So speaking early gets you in the door. It makes you part of the inner circle.
Yeah.
But once you have the floor, how do you prevent people from just zoning out?
That is where framing comes in. Framing is the literal shape of your sentence. You have to drop the soft qualifier.
The soft qualifiers, you mean like saying sorry?
Yes.
Yeah.
No more starting with sorry, but, or this might be a dumb thought, but. A sentence that starts with a soft excuse adds mental weight on the listener. They doubt the idea before you even finish speaking it.
Because you literally just told them to doubt it.
Exactly. The golden rule here is to state your main point first and provide your reasons second.
So it's like giving people the end point before making them get in the car with you. You have to tell their brain where we're going before asking them to follow you there. Otherwise, they just get restless.
That is exactly how the brain processes new facts. When you give the endpoint first, you provide a clear map, which is seen as being in charge.
Right. It shows clarity.
There are so many times we see this. Imagine someone young, say early 30s, deeply smart at their job. But in meetings, they just fade away. People steal their ideas constantly.
And I bet they think the fix is just to put their head down and work even harder on their own time.
Many of us do. We think the hard work will just speak for itself. But often the issue is just the packaging. If you always wait to speak last, thinking it is polite, and you always soften your points with phrases like, maybe this is wrong, but you lose the room.
But if they change that,
Once they grasp how the group order works, they just change two things. They start speaking early and they drop the weak openings.
and then what? People start asking for their thoughts.
Yes, nothing about their actual smarts changed. Just the framing.
That is amazing. And it happens to people who are older too, right? Like someone with 20 years in the field.
Oh, clearly. It is very common for senior people who are just worn down by being talked over. They start giving their best ideas to their peers before the meeting so those peers can pitch them.
Oh, that hurts to hear. Just giving away your ideas so they get heard.
It is a pure survival choice. They outsource their own spark to avoid the pain of being ignored.
I know so many people who have done something like that just to get the job done. It breeds so much quiet resentment.
Yeah, it does. But they can learn to state the main point first, paired with a slow 1-second pause. The next time they have a point to make, they don't hand it off. They state the point, take a full, calm 1-second pause, and then explain the reasons.
And the room listens.
The room doesn't just listen, they ask follow-up questions. It pulls the room together, and they realize their ideas were never the issue.
Okay, I want to get very real here. I don't want to change my whole self or feel like I'm putting on a fake show. What are the clear physical tools we can use to ground ourselves like that?
It is about adding small, daily physical tweaks. The first tool is writing your single most vital sentence before the meeting starts. Just one firm sentence.
Why write it down?
Because when the pressure spikes, stress can block your word recall. Having that one sentence firmly written down means you aren't hunting for words under stress.
That makes so much sense. And then when you go to read that sentence, you use that pause you talked about.
Yes, the 1-second pause before speaking. It feels painfully long in your own head, but to a listening brain, that single beat of silence signals deep inner peace. It shows you aren't rushing to beat someone else's voice.
Now, I've heard some advice about lowering your vocal pitch and slowing your pace. I have to push back on this a little bit. If I suddenly show up to my Tuesday morning team chat talking slower and deeper, aren't my peers going to think I'm doing a weird movie voice? It feels a bit fake.
That is a very fair worry. But we aren't talking about putting on a fake, grand voice. We are talking about finding your natural chest tone.
Natural chest tone.
What does that mean? Well, when we get nervous, our breathing gets shallow, and we speak from the top of our chest and our throat. That makes a thinner, faster, higher-pitched voice.
Oh, like when your voice gets squeaky because you're nervous.
Exactly.
So how do you fix that without sounding totally fake?
You use a very simple physical tool, doing one slow, deep breath out before you speak. When you empty your lungs and take a proper deep belly breath, it naturally drops your tone. You're just reaching the calmest form of your own true voice.
Okay, just one deep breath out. That I can do.
And finally, there is a physical seating choice. Arrive early enough to claim a seat with a clear view to the most central voice in the room. Being close and having eye contact directly linked to how often you are given the floor.
Okay, but let's play this out. Let's say you do all of this. You use your calm, natural tone. You state your point first. You pause. And then, like 4 minutes later, someone still tries to steal your idea. How do you handle that in the moment without sounding petty or mad?
You firmly reclaim it, but you do it warmly. You wait for them to finish, and then you say, building on what I just
I
raised.
like that. Building on what I just raised.
It is polite, it is helpful, but it firmly and quickly roots the start of the idea in the minds of the group.
It doesn't accuse them of stealing. It just claims your own space. Now, I want to clarify a few things because there are a lot of myths out there about who gets talked over. I think most of us assume that the person getting cut off the most in a meeting is the quietest person, the shy one.
You would naturally assume that, but real-life patterns tell a fully different story. The people who face the most cutoffs are actually the second most talkative people in the room.
Wait, really? Why? That seems totally backward. Why would the person who is almost at the top of the group get talked over the most?
Because of how group habits and hitting order work. If you are very quiet, the group's hidden mind does not see you as a risk to the set order.
You're just flying under the radar.
Right. But if you are the second most talkative person, you are sitting right on the edge of the set rank. You are clearly pushing against the top spot.
Oh, wow. So the room is basically pushing back.
Yes. The cutoffs you face are a hidden, built-in pushback from the group to keep the current order in place. The group is literally guarding the line.
That is just fascinating. It's like a defense system from the meeting room trying to keep you in your place. So to get through that kind of pushback, these new skills need to become deeply built-in habits, not just panic moves. How do we practice this without burning out?
You build muscle memory in safe, low-stress spots. Practice firm framing when you are ordering food at a cafe or giving someone street notes. State the point before the reasons. Practice that 1-second pause in daily casual chats with your friends.
That takes the pressure off. And there are definitely things we need to actively stop doing too, right? Like the internal review loop. I know so many people who are guilty of changing a sentence in their head over and over to make it perfect. And by the time they finally speak, the whole chat has moved on.
That inner review loop is deeply tied to a fear of being wrong. And it trains your brain that your first thought is never quite ready. You have to practice trusting your very first thought.
Just letting it out without filtering it 10 times.
Exactly. You also need to start using uptalk.
Uptalk. You mean that habit of ending a firm point with a rising tone? Like you're asking a question.
Yes. And the reason uptalk is so bad goes back to mental effort. A rising tone signals a question, and a question asks the listener to do the work of finding an answer or checking your claim.
And the brain is lazy.
Deeply lazy. The brain hates extra work, so it quietly rejects the truth of your point. It trains listeners to treat your facts as unsure guesses.
Which goes hand in hand with saying sorry all the time. Opening with, I'm sorry, but...
Repeated self-shrinking doesn't just chip away at the room's view of you. Over time, it physically changes how you view yourself. It chips away at your own internal sense of worth.
It becomes a self-fulfilling loop.
It does. And on a purely physical level, you need to cut down on checking your phone during meetings.
Because it distracts you.
It is worse than just losing focus. The constant tiny dopamine hits from scrolling mess with your baseline reaction speed.
Oh, because your brain is jumping between tasks.
Yes. When a real chance to speak opens up, your brain is shifting out of a phone loop, meaning you are physically a step behind the rhythm of the room.
You literally can't catch the beat of the talk. And since so many of us are working from home now, we can't ignore the screen space. If you're on a video call, put your camera at eye level.
Absolutely.
And when you make your key point, look straight at the camera lens, not at your own little box on the screen. It massively boosts how solid you appear. And if you are in person, stay away from the far ends of the table. You want to be physically in the mix.
Those are small physical shifts that broadcast deep trust to the mind before you even say a single word.
This entire talk really shifts how we see this stuff. To sum this up for you listening, when you get talked over, it is rarely your smarts, and it is almost never your ideas that are the issue. It is simply the packaging.
It really is.
And as we've seen from how the mind works, packaging is just a mechanical skill. It's a set of simple physical and verbal signals you can learn at any age, whether you're 20 or 50.
The human brain holds on to brain growth throughout our entire lives. You can change these talking habits whenever you choose to.
It really makes you step back and wonder, though, if human brains are this easily tricked by a deep breath, a calm pause, and dropping a few weak words. Think about how many world-changing ideas, brilliant fixes, or amazing thoughts society has entirely missed out on simply because the person holding the right idea used an unsure, rising voice. What brilliant idea are you sitting on right now that just needs a new package by your very next meeting?
These thoughts, these questions, they don't have to stop here. Geeks Mindset has many more podcasts and videos just like this one. Subscribe to the channel and explore other episodes. They all flow the same thoughtful way. If this podcast felt genuinely useful to you, share it with even one person in your life. That one share can bring a real change in someone's life, and it helps Geeks Mindset reach more people who truly need this. If this brought you real value, look for the join button right next to the Geeks Mindset logo below this video. Click it and become a member of the Mindset Support Circle. Your support helps honest mindset awareness reach thousands who are silently struggling. Geeks Mindset moves forward because of you. Thank you so much from the heart for being here.